Today, I'm recapping the Sunday games from NFL Week 4 on this edition of the Shumake Take. Let's get it. All right, and welcome in, everybody. Hope you're having a fantastic, fantabulous, awesome, freaking day. My name is Garrett Shumake, and you're listening to the Shumake Take. This is episode 16, and we got to recap NFL Week 4 today. We're recapping the Sunday games, the 1 o'clock games. We're recapping the 4 o'clock games. Thursday Night Football in there, as well as the time of the recording of this video. Sunday Night Football between the Bills and the Ravens is happening as we speak. But before we get into the games, a little bit of housekeeping to start. First and foremost, before we begin, I want to give my thoughts and my prayers out to everyone that is suffered through Hurricane Helene. That is the reason why I did not make a video on Saturday for Shumake Take Rants, and this video is going to be coming out a day later than normal. Normally, I record these the recap on Sunday and upload it on Sunday, so it usually comes in around late Sunday night, early in the morning, like Monday morning, midnight, 1 o'clock. But it's going to come out a little later, so I apologize. But more importantly, my thoughts and my prayers go out to everyone that went through Hurricane Helene. I've seen the pictures. I can only imagine what a lot of you are going through right now. And it's just sad. It's just sad that we have to see all this devastation. It's sad that so many good people have to go through something so tragic. And wow, I don't even know how else to put it into words other than it's just sad. And I'm sorry. I'm very sorry for anyone that went through it and had and weren't so lucky. But it's just tough. It's been for a lot of people, it's been a very chaotic, it's been a very scary, very unfortunate past few days. And for anyone, whether you're here where I live in Tampa, Florida, whether it's you guys live out in Tallahassee, out in the Big Bend, or you live in the Carolinas, Georgia, Tennessee, all those states that got hit. Anyone who's watching, my thoughts and prayers go out to you and your family. Hoping y'all are safe, okay, healthy. And man, it's a tough topic. I mean, honestly, I never thought I'd ever have to talk about a tough topic on the show like this, but as you can tell, I'm not really prepared. But all I can really say right now is my thoughts and my prayers go out to all of you, all your families, everyone that's listening. I'm wishing all of you the best right now, and that's all we can really hope for at the moment, and just hope that everything kind of figures itself out as soon as possible. But other than that, again, I'm sorry that my uploads are a little inconsistent as of Saturday and on this video today, but we're all getting there. We're all doing the best we can, and that's all we can do right now is just do the absolute best we can. Just keep on working, keep on fighting. That's all we can do. And speaking of working, doing the best we can, football today was a pain. I could not watch football today. The only only two games I really watched were the Jaguars, the Texans, and the Bucks at the Eagles, or Eagles at Bucks, excuse me. Those are the only two games I could really watch, and I didn't even watch the full games. So this entire segment, or this entire episode today, will be entirely quick bits. So not ideal, but we're gonna figure it out. We're still having a video out, and it's still gonna be good for you guys. But we got I don't even know how to lead into this, but let me think. Let me look at my script for a second. Just kind of gathering my thoughts, warming up. Take a sip of water. Okay. Let's there's no other way to segue into this, so let's just jump right in. So starting with Thursday Night Football, the Cowboys beat the Giants 20-15, and this game was very other than close. This game felt like a Cowboys game, and it felt like a Giants game, if that makes any type of sense. Dak Prescott, starting with Dallas, he played a much better game in this game, had a couple of touchdowns. His completion percentage was through the roof compared to how it's been these first few weeks. And for the Dallas Cowboys, they needed this. They needed this. This offense has been inconsistent and it hasn't been very, explosive at certain times. And it really wasn't in this game either. But you know what? Dak was consistent. And that's what the Cowboys need. If Dak is consistent, the Cowboys win games. Simple as that. And for the defense had a much better performance in this game. Really kind of made this Giants offense one-dimensional. Took away Devin Singletary, took him out of the game. And the only two players for the Giants that really did anything were Wan'Dale Robinson and then Malik Neighbors, who we'll get to in a second. But for Dallas, a good, solid game against an opponent that you should have beat. And, it was a little closer than I would have expected. Than I actually expected. But they got the win. Dak was more consistent. And right now, that's the winning formula. Right now, the running game for Dallas is completely not even there. It's not even there at all. But shout out to the running back that played, though. I can't remember his name. Was it like Cowdle or something? Or Bowdle or something like that? I apologize. I apologize for that. But he didn't get very many carries, but he averaged 4.9 a pop. So that's good. That's always good. And other than that, for the Giants, Daniel Jones had a better game. If you can hear that, my dog is scratching out my door. I am sorry. But Daniel Jones was fine in this game. He wasn't bad, wasn't great, but he did enough to win, I thought, despite the circumstances. But right now, Malik Neighbors is a favorite to win Rookie of the Year. Not like the favorite, but a favorite. He's a candidate. He's definitely a candidate to win Rookie of the Year. 12 catches. He had like 175 yards or 115 yards. I can't fully remember. Had a touchdown, and right now, he's everything that the Giants wanted him to be. He's a deep threat. He's getting open. He's making big plays. And, you drafted him 6th overall for a reason. A lot of people wanted the Giants to draft J.J. McCarthy, but right now, he's the only bright spot on this offense that's consistent and, fun to watch. So, for that, give him credit. Wan'Dale. Malik Neighbors, Rookie of the Year candidate right now. He is playing absolutely phenomenal. For the Giants defense, they did enough. I thought they did enough. I didn't think they did enough, but it was close. It was close. They were able to keep the Cowboys in check, and seeing how this game played out, this is why you need a good running game. This is why you need running backs that are effective, that can be productive, and not even always be necessarily explosive, but just be able to consistently get carries that move the chains or get you in better situations like 2nd and short, 3rd and short, that type of stuff. And when you don't have that, it is really hard to pass the ball, as we saw with Dak, with Daniel Jones. And even though they played better statistically, there weren't as many shots downfield. There weren't as many big play opportunities because you need a good running game. You need a good running game that the defense can respect and have to put more guys in the box for, to create those opportunities downfield. And what we saw a lot was just dink and dunk. Dink and dunk, dink and dunk, dink and dunk, dink and dunk. And that was pretty much it. So it ended up being a mostly boring game. But, Malik Neighbors, again, fun to watch. I'll give credit to CeeDee Lamb, too. He had 98 yards. He had a touchdown. So the star players for each team that you expect to play well are playing well, and they played well in this game. So that's fine. But Dallas is the much better team, obviously. There's no one out there that's really thinking that the Giants are better than the Cowboys. So the better team won this game. It was ugly, but Cowboys turned it out in a one-score game that was very tight on Thursday night football. Enough repetition there. But we got to move on to the Bengals at the Panthers. Was it at the Panthers? It was at the Panthers. The Bengals win 34-24, and honestly, I know I was going bold with the Panthers getting it, but in my gut, I should have picked the Bengals. I really should have. My gut told me otherwise, and I went against my gut. I'm not doing that again. But for the Bengals, they needed this. They needed this a lot. They're 0-3, can't fall to 0-4. Their odds of making the playoffs are now slim to almost none. But here's a game where, you're going against an opponent that, had a really good game in week 3. Kind of came out of nowhere, went crazy, but they fell back down to earth a little bit. And for the Bengals offense, Zach Moss, Chase Brown, they were productive together again. So consistency-wise, you like to see that out of the Bengals backfield. And the passing game got a lot better too. Jamar Chase had a good game, and T. Higgins was back for the first time. So his absence was felt. Now that he's back, things look a little bit better. Things look a little bit more grounded and not completely off the tracks. So all of that is good. I didn't get a chance to look at how Anton Harrison played in his first start, the rookie tackle out of Oklahoma. I don't even think... No, it was not even Anton Harrison. Anton Harrison is on the Jaguars. What the heck am I talking about? What's his name? Oh, not Anton Harrison. His college teammate, Armarius Mims, out of Oklahoma. I didn't get to see how well he played at right tackle with Trent Brown being out, but I'm not going to say too much on that, but that is notable. But for the Carolina Panthers, actually, let me backtrack for a second. For the Bengals, the Bengals defense played a lot better in this game than I thought these past couple of games. Again, they needed a performance here that's winnable or passable, whatever word you want to use, and it was good. It was passable. It worked. And the offense, the Bengals offense, the Bengals have always been about their offense. That's always been the focal point of their team. But today the defense needed to step up, and I thought they stepped up. They made some plays, weren't really getting any pressure. I don't think they got a sack in this game, but they picked off Andy Dalton one time. That was critical, and they did enough to win. I thought they did enough to win here. And for the Panthers, here's a fall back down to earth. Andy Dalton, he had a decent game, threw the pick, had a touchdown. Deontay Johnson looked explosive again. Xavier Legette got in there. Credit to him. Shout out to him. He got his first NFL touchdown. So good for him for the first round receiver out of South Carolina. And for the Panthers defense, not good enough. It's not good enough. And they weren't getting enough pressure, I thought. They weren't making turnovers, obviously, to my knowledge. And this Panthers defense is not going to be very good, I don't think. With the loss of Brian Burns, the pass rush is evidently not there as much as it was. And just pieces-wise, you can see the holes that are there. There's a hole in the secondary. Obviously, at edge rusher, there's a Brian Burns-sized hole sticking out right there right now. And that's just to name a couple. But honestly, I'll say this. Even though the Panthers lost that and they fall to 0-3, it does kind of reassure you that starting Andy Dalton may have been the right decision. Because, after one loss, I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, all of a sudden there's a quarterback controversy. Because here's the thing. Andy Dalton played okay in this game. But here's the thing. Right now, he put up 24 points. Right now, I don't have the confidence that Bryce Young can put up 24 points. So, as of right now, he's still pushing the ball down the field. He's getting the ball out quickly. And he's just playing more fundamentally sound than Bryce Young is. And obviously, that's because Andy Dalton's a veteran. He's been in the league for over 10 years now. So, you would expect that out of him. But right now, the Panthers, I know that Panthers fans might want to tank. But honestly, they're building up this roster right now. They got some good, young, talented players on the offensive side of the ball. And you kind of have to see what you got. You have to see what you got in these guys and see how well they're performing in their first year. With a first-year head coach, you need to see some type of success. And, most circumstances you would kind of expect, okay, if they fail and it's a bad first year, whatever, you get the pass. But, and even if they had a bad year, I'm not going to fire Dave Canales or nothing, but considering what they did in the offseason to get better, they need to see some type of progress. They need to see some type of consistency. And while today wasn't enough to win, it's better than how it was the first 2 weeks. So right now, I think you stick with Andy Dalton until he starts playing as bad as Bryce Young, which is kind of a low bar to kind of reach. So or kind of a high bar. Is that even a high bar or low bar? I don't even know how do you explain that. It's almost easier to just not do that, if that makes sense. There's some things where you could do something like this, where it's bad, but it's so much easier just it's one of those things just don't be stupid. Not that saying that Bryce Young was playing bad and being stupid, no, but it's one of those things where if you just don't screw it up. As long as you don't do anything to screw it up, you're going to pass and you're going to be fine. It's like if you have it's like if you do so well in school, like you have to go to the final exam. This is how it was in college for me a couple times, where like I was fortunately I was so well off in the class where all I had to do was get like a D on the final, and I would have passed with a B. So I mean that's entirely possible, but it's one of those things where like don't screw it up. Like as long as you don't like get a straight up 0 on the exam, like you're gonna be fine. Like even if I took 0, I probably would have been fine. But that's just an example. But the Panthers continue starting Andy Dalton. I think he did enough to show that he's pushing the ball downfield. The offense is moving the ball actually. So, and they were competitive in this game too. So for the Panthers, it's this loss sucks, but I'm not hanging my head down too low just yet. Mouth is getting dry. It's getting hot in here. We keep fighting. And speaking of fights, this next one was a fight, and I called it. The Falcons beat the Saints 26-24, and I said this game was going to be close and it was going to be exciting. And exciting, not as much, but it was back and forth, up and down. Young Hoku hits the game-winning field goal for the Falcons. Falcons move to 3-1. Right? No, they moved to 2-2, excuse me. And more importantly for the Falcons, Kirk is getting more comfortable. He's getting more consistent. He did have a pick in this game, which you don't like to see. But I'm more concerned about this running game because they ran the ball only 15 times, and Tyler Algier got 8 carries, and Bijan Robinson got 7. And I know it's one game, so I'm not going to overreact too much, but this running game has to get going. It's not consistent right now, and you can see, like the thing with the NFL, as I talked about in one of my rants, was it Rants 9? Yeah, it was Rants 9 when I was talking about how passing numbers are down. Part of the reason why running the ball has gotten so effective is because defenses are, selling out to stop the pass. They're selling out to stop the pass using the too high shell, and it's allowing more running backs to open up. And you can see the defenses are adapting, they're adjusting, and running backs that were popping off early off in the year are slowing down a little bit. And you can see the adjustments starting to be made and everything starting to level itself out. So it's pretty cool. Like, I don't know. It's just cool. It's just really cool to see, like, how quickly defenses are adapting and how quickly things can change. I mean, and that's what the NFL stands for, not for long. So it's really interesting. Other than that, like, the Falcons played pretty much how they've played all year so far. Defensively, they did fine. They didn't get enough pressure, I thought. I don't think they got any sacks. I think they maybe got 1 or 2 at best. But for the Falcons, Kirk played well. The offense did enough. Drove down the field, 2-minute drill, go and win the game. That's what you needed. That's what you're supposed to do. Go win. But for the Saints, Derek Carr, he was okay. He had an interception, which running the ball. Taysom Hill running the ball wasn't overall very, very effective, but Taysom Hill had 2 rushing touchdowns in this game. Shout out to Taysom Hill. He was effective. He finally did something in a game this year at this point. And other than that, I mean, Chris Olave did Chris Olave things. Rashid Shaheed was effective. And this defense played fine. It's just this offense has kind of fallen off from how it started the first 2 weeks of the year. And I expected that. Like, obviously, they weren't going to drop 40 points a game all year. But these last 2 weeks compared to the first 2 weeks is kind of drastic. I thought, like, it would be a little bit more, kind of A+ tier, like how it was down to, like, B tier. It's fallen down to, like, C tier right now. And Derek Carr is inconsistent. Like I said, he threw a pick. He had a pick last week, too, against Philly. And the explosiveness is just not there. Not there as much as before. And obviously, you're not going to get as much as before compared to dropping 40 points a game. But it's just the opportunities are just not there. The opportunities are not there. And the ones that, do present themselves are not being taken advantage of. And for the Saints, this is disappointing because they start 2-0 and 3-0. Wait, they started 3-0, right? Did they beat? No. Eagles won, right? Yeah, they started off 2-0 and now they're 2-2. And now the Saints that, the team that early on kind of looked like could be the real deal, they're kind of falling off a little bit. And they're kind of in limbo at this point in time. But a team that is not in limbo, that has absolutely fallen off the tracks, the Houston Texans beat the Jacksonville Jaguars 24-20. And for Houston, we'll start with them. CJ Stroud had a great game. Nico Collins went off. Stephon Diggs had a nice few catches. Other than that, Kate Stover had a nice catch. I saw that, like 27 yards for the rookie tight end out of Ohio State. So that was nice. But honestly, this game was close because the Texans have a couple glaring weaknesses on their team. First off, their defense is not great. It's good, but it's not great as much as you'd want. People hyped it up to be right now. So that's a little disappointing if you're a Houston Texans fan. For mostly NFL fans, at least for me, I expected this defense to kind of play how it is right now. I mean, I didn't expect this defense to play as great as people were hyping it up to be. I mean, this defense is playoff caliber and it's loaded with talent. It's just not a lot of elite talent. It's a lot of full of great, it's a lot of good, consistent talent, but not a lot of elite talent. But that's not the point. The other thing here is the Texans are killing themselves with penalties. They had a ton of... They're leading the league in penalties right now, if I'm not mistaken, averaging... I don't know. They're not averaging 11 penalties a game, no. I think last week they had 11 penalties. I can't remember the graphic that was pulled up during the game. But penalties are killing this team right now. Their left guard, he had multiple in this game, and people were booing him. And right now, the Texans' offense is not operating as consistently as you'd want it to, because not only that, Joe Mixon's out right now, so that doesn't help. But this offensive line committing penalties for Houston is hurting them. It's hurting them, and sure, they're 3-1 right now, but it killed them last week. Sorry. I think my dog just got in trouble. I think he just got in trouble. Little brother just got in trouble, so the brotherly instinct has to kick in and be like, ha ha, little brother got in trouble. But I'm sure it's fine. But yeah, for the Texans, penalties got to clean it up. If the Texans can clean up this penalties and then just finally get Joe Mixon back and healthy, this offense will be top 5 in the league, I think. CJ Stroud is playing out of his mind despite the circumstances. And if they could just clean this up, it's so close. It's so close. This offense is just so close to being just bliss. It's so close to being pure bliss. And enjoy it while you can, because obviously after this year, Bobby Sloak, I think, is going to be gone. But we don't have to talk about that right now. Probably shouldn't have even mentioned it. But CJ Stroud played great. This defense, kind of suspect, but then again, I kind of expected this. But Jacksonville, they're 0-4. And for Jacksonville, the playoffs are out. You're out of the playoffs at this point. Mathematically, you're done. You can't make to the playoffs after falling to 0-4. And Trevor Lawrence played better. He played better in this game. The thing about the Jaguars is that offensively, they were more consistent. They were competing. They had a lead in this game multiple times. And what really, sunk their ship, once again, was their defense. This secondary, they allowed 350 yards passing through the air, and you're simply not going to win many games allowing that many yards. You're simply not going to. And outside of the offense and Trevor Lawrence, that was the other, glaring weakness on this team. But, as much as I've kind of dogged on Trevor, or not kind of, as much as I've really dogged on Trevor Lawrence, these past few weeks, there's a game where I can say he did enough to win. This offense did enough. Gabe Davis was fine. Brian Thomas was really good. He was fun to watch. This running game was interesting. Travis Etienne didn't do a whole lot. Tank Bigsby got the majority of the carries. But it's just this secondary is bad. It's straight up bad. And, right now with the offense having new pieces and, give them the benefit of the doubt. They have new offensive linemen, new offensive pieces for the most part. You're kind of learning to work with. And you kind of needed your defense to be a little bit better, given also your defensive line not really getting any pressure as much as you want them to, not getting sacks. It's annoying. It's very annoying. And it's hurting the growth of this team because this offense needed it. This offense needed a little bit, needed some time to grow, at least a little bit. but it's not working. It's simply not working in Jacksonville. They're 0-4, and they're well on their way to missing the playoffs. Statistically, it's done. You cannot make the playoffs after going 0-4. The odds are greater than 0. It's not a 0% chance to make the playoffs, but at this point, you just got to hope for 8-9, 7-10. You just got to hope that you can salvage the season in one way or another, have a couple good games to end the year. But right now, Jacksonville, not it. Sorry. But in my opinion, playoffs for them are no more. But a team that will make the playoffs this season, I'm going bold on this one. As you see, I'm making these very arbitrary jumps from game to game. I'm going to figure it out. It's going to get better. But we got to talk about the Vikings at the Packers. And this game had the potential to be the best game of the week. And I think it was. I really think it was. The Vikings, I was right. Sam Darnold looked great. The Packers, Jordan Love started off slow, had 2 picks. And they had a really good comeback there at the end of the game. He ended up throwing 4 touchdowns, had another pick in the second half. But it was too little, too late. And Sam Darnold is inevitable. He is inevitable. The Vikings are now 4-0. And at this point, give them the credit. Vikings are legit this year. They're legit. When you start 4-0 and you play how you played these first 4 weeks and how consistently good Sam Darnold has played, you're legit. You're legit. You're going to be good, and it's going to take some massive catastrophe to stop this team at this point in time. And it's crazy that Sam Darnold, throughout 4 weeks of the season, is a top 5 quarterback in the NFL at this point in time. That's crazy to me. But you know what? It's real. We're living in it. And that's the type of chaos we like to see in the NFL sometimes. It's pretty cool to see. But Justin Jefferson played well. Aaron Jones played well. Jordan Addison came back, had 2 touchdowns, 1 rushing, 1 receiving. So you like to see that. This defense getting pressure and pressing again and again and again. I was so skeptical. I can't say it enough. I was so skeptical about this defense being the downfall of this team this year. And guess what? It's been a bright spot. It's been really good. Give a lot of credit to Brian Flores for getting the most out of these guys, and it's working. The Vikings are incredible right now, and I don't think anybody expected them to start 4-0. But you know what? You went up against a really good defense in the Packers, and you picked them apart. Obviously, it wasn't, the second half was a little shaky, but honestly, right now, the offense is playing out of their minds. Their defense is playing much better than I anticipated, and that's a recipe for success. And for the Packers, I called it. Like I said, Jordan Love, I expected him to start off slow coming back to this game. Threw 2 picks in the first half, didn't really do much of anything, but second half played much better, almost completed the comeback, but it was too little, too late. The blowout was already too large. But offensively, we have seen the wide receiver 1 emerge from this team. When I talked about it in my schedule predictions, which wide receiver was going to emerge and be the consistent threat for the Green Bay Packers, and it's been Jayden Reed. He had 2 touchdowns in this game, had over 130 yards, and he's the go-to guy. Christian Watson got hurt, unfortunately, so you don't like to see that. But Jayden Reed is the guy. Jayden Reed is the number 1 receiver right now for Green Bay, and you can see it, how he plays. He's explosive, and that's what you wanted to see. I mean, I say that a lot. That's what you wanted to see, but that's the thing. NFL football fans, you got to see what you want to see. And for Packers fans, you wanted to see a wide receiver emerge. Well, there you go. There you go. Jayden Reed is your wide receiver 1 definitively. I mean, I don't know what the depth chart was, but he probably was on the depth chart. But hey, we'll see. I don't know what I'm talking about at this point. I'm gooking. But Jayden Reed, good. Packers defense didn't do enough. They kind of let down in this game. But it's all about the Vikings. All about the Vikings winning a great game. But moving on, flipping to the other side of games that were not great, but were actually really darn bad and boring. The Broncos beat the New York Jets 10-9. 10-9. What are we doing here? And for anyone that watched this game, I am sorry. I am terribly sorry. This game was terrible. I don't know why anybody would have watched this game. Starting with the Jets with Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers was fine. He was fine. But the running game, is a narrative like with the Giants and the Cowboys, you can't run the ball. It makes it harder to pass downfield. It literally just makes it harder. And this defense, as good as it is, as good as it should be, didn't do enough. And the Broncos, Bo Nix only had like 60 yards passing. He did have a touchdown, I think. So there is that. But he had like -7 yards passing in the first half, which is pretty funny if you ask me. But somehow excuse me, God, I'm burping, coming out with the win. But the big storyline, at least for this game, is the Broncos defense. This Broncos defense is much better than I thought it was going to be, and they're keeping the Broncos in games. They're 1-3 right now, but all their 3 losses, well, no, they're 2-2 right now. Excuse me, they're 1-2 games. What am I talking about? But the first 2 games, even though they started 0-2, they were 1-score games. They were close. This Broncos defense is playing much better than I thought, and give a lot of credit to defensive coordinator Vance Joseph. I know a lot of Broncos fans didn't want him back because as the head coach, he was pretty darn bad. But hey, as a he was always a good defensive mind, and guess what? He's great right now. This defense on paper doesn't have a lot of star talent, in my opinion, outside of guys like Patrick Surtain and a couple others, but they're getting production and they're fighting well. This Broncos team is competitive, and that's what I kind of worried about and why I had them going 4-13, because I thought they wouldn't be competitive at all. And guess what? They're 2-2, and a couple plays here and there that could be 4-0. That's very much possible. So I'm gonna give a lot of credit to Sean Payton for having this team a lot more ready to go than I thought they were going to be. And give a lot of credit to this Broncos defense and defensive coordinator Vance Joseph for really, getting a team that I thought was pretty barren in its roster and its players to play much better than I thought they would. And we'll have to monitor it going forward. I still don't think the Broncos are going to win, very many games, but at this point, they're definitely going to win more than 4. They're definitely going to win more than 4. 7 is probably the more fair landing spot at this point. But good for them. If they go 7-10 this year, that surpasses my expectations. I would call that a good season. But for the Jets, God, this is I got to go back to it one more time to conclude. But this is just frustrating. This is frustrating because the Jets, they just need to get better, more consistent on offense. They need to get this running game going for the love of God. And this defense needs to start stepping up a little bit more. They need to start getting better. They need to get a better pass rush. I mean, I know that's not great without Hassan Reddick there, who's still holding out. But, oh my God, the Jets. I think it's every week, the Jets are they're disappointing, and then the next week they're great, and then they're disappointing, and then they're great. Right now, the Jets are doing a lot of this. And they need to do more of this. A team that I expect to go 10-7 and win the division right now is, that team's not there right now. The Buffalo Bills are clearly running away with this division right now. Jesus Christ. But the Jets, they got to get together, got to be more consistent, because losing against a rookie Bo Nix that only threw 60 yards and had -7 yards in the first half, that's pretty disappointing, if I do say so myself. Moving on to our next game on the list, the Colts beat the Pittsburgh Steelers 27-24, and this game was pretty close, obviously, but it was fun. This game started out pretty weird. Anthony Richardson wasn't really doing much. Went out of the game with an injury, and I think it was a hip injury, and I don't know how long he's going to be out for. Hoping he's better soon, but Anthony Richardson can't take care of his body. The hit he took didn't slide. He just took a hit that was unnecessary, and well, sorry Colts fans, but you gotta. At this point, Anthony Richardson is injury prone. He was injury prone last year, but now 2 years in, and it's the same problems. He's officially injury prone, and he can't take care of his body. And Joe Flacco came in relief, played much better, threw 2 touchdowns, and really, kind of cemented the win for Indianapolis. And for the Steelers, well, their defense let down a lot. I thought that they would win this game because Anthony Richardson was playing. I thought they'd take advantage of it, and they were to a certain extent. But the running game was just too good to overcome, or for the Steelers to kind of bounce back and overcome from, despite the lack of passing ability from Anthony Richardson. And then Joe Flacco came in and kind of just picked them apart. He just picked them apart, drove down the field, made a couple of touchdowns. And for the Steelers, offensively, I was impressed. Justin Fields had a great game today. He played a great game today. And he had over 300 yards passing, had a touchdown. I think he had 2 rushing touchdowns as well. And the Steelers are 3-1. They lost this game, but it was close. And right now, the way Justin Fields is playing, I'm sorry for how much I've dogged on Justin Fields. I'll apologize for now because he's playing much better. And at this point, you need to start Justin Fields the rest of the year. You have to. At this point, you have to. You're winning with him. He's playing well. And, it's working. I can't say other than that, it's working. Not Calvin Austin. George Pickens played well. Cordell Patterson did get hurt in this game, which that's unfortunate for Pittsburgh. But honestly, not much more I can say about this game. Anthony Richardson can't take care of his body. That sucks for Colts fans. I'm sorry, but hey, at least you got Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco is a good quarterback still, apparently. So there you go. At least you're still going to be competitive in games, and maybe you'll actually start winning games with a more competent quarterback under center. For them and for the Steelers, you got your quarterback for the season. Stick with Justin Fields. He's playing well, and that's your formula for success moving forward. Next up, we got a little upset. The Chicago Bears beat the Los Angeles Rams 24-18. And for Chicago, Caleb Williams had a decent game. He played fine. But the story was DeAndre Swift. He finally did something in a game. He finally, after 3 weeks of doing absolutely nothing, he has finally done something. He had 93 yards. He had a big, long touchdown. And good for him. The Bears needed this. They needed this a lot. And you can see now when the offense is balanced, when you got a decent passing game and a good running game coming together, this offense can actually do something and can actually kind of overcome how bad the offensive line has been so far these first 4 weeks for Chicago. And the defense played solid. You could tell that they, for the Rams, Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua were missed. And against a better defense in Chicago compared to a depleted defense in San Francisco last week. Well, no, their defense wasn't really depleted, but I don't know. Well, I'm not entirely sure, but I know it was the offense for San Francisco that was mostly gone. But, what a difference a week makes. I guess that's a takeaway. You played against a good defense 1 week without Puka and Cooper, and you won, and this one you lost. And you need to get them back as soon as possible, healthy. I'm hoping they're coming back as soon as possible. But for the Bears, they pulled off an upset. They got one away here, and they're 2-2 now. They're 2-2, and they're competitive. And that's pretty much it. This game, I actually thought I really didn't get to look at very often, very much. But for Chicago, good for them. They pulled off an upset, and that's another game that goes in the L column for me. But this one, I did not expect to happen. The Eagles went to Tampa, and the Bucs literally just walloped them. They flew in, and they literally clipped their wings off and then took a slingshot like an Angry Bird and shot them out. Bucs win 33-16, and I did not expect this. Like I said, I did not expect this happening at all. And Baker bounced back 350 yards. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin was great. Bucky Irving and Rachaad White both had 11 carries for 49 yards. Both of them were great in this game, I thought. And the defense got 3 or 4 sacks on Jalen Hurts. And for the Eagles offense, and for the Eagles in general, you're 2-2, but this defense, you gotta hit the panic button. This defense, I'm hitting the panic button. You got a new defensive coordinator. I know you got young talent, young corners on the outside, but God, this defense needs to start playing better. This defense is not doing enough, despite all the talent that's still on it. This defensive line with multiple first-round picks is not getting enough pressure, especially against a Bucs offensive line that allowed 6 or 7 sacks last week to Denver. This Eagles defense is much more talented on paper than Denver. So the fact that they did not do enough and not take advantage of that infuriates me. Well, it may not infuriate me, but that's very disappointing. And you know what else is really disappointing? Yeah, my phone just stopped recording like halfway through this. Well, not even halfway through it, but in the middle of me ranting about the Eagles defense not being up to par, my phone just stopped recording out of nowhere. But I'm back here. I think my camera's tilted. My camera's actually tilted. I'm sorry. Man, this video is absolutely a disaster. But thankfully, there's only 4 games we got to go through left and talk about. And I'll try and kind of be thoughtful about it. God, I literally just got back to recording this, like, oh my God, it's frustrating. I literally recorded, got up, saw my phone stop recording, and I was like, Jesus Christ, where did it stop? And I found where it stopped. I'm like, okay, better off, fine. But just to pretty much summarize, the Bucks played great. The Bucks are legit. They're the best team in the NFC South. And for Philly, they need to get it together because they're too inconsistent to start the year. Their defense needs to start playing better, and offensively, you just got to start. We need to see more consistency. And I didn't mention it before, but I'll mention it now. AJ Brown and Devontae Smith are out. You can tell it's hurting them, but the running game needs to be more consistent in this game. I don't know. The Eagles just got to be better. Their defense is not consistent enough, and hopefully we get AJ Brown and Devontae Smith back soon. So there's that. But the Patriots and 49ers. 49ers beat the Patriots 30-13. There's not much to say here in this game. The Patriots were just booty. They were just bad. And for the 49ers, Brock Purdy played well. Did throw a pick. Threw a touchdown, which is fine. Jordan Mason had 100 yards again. Had a touchdown. So that's good to see. And if you're a fantasy guy, well, go ahead and throw him under your roster if you haven't already, because he's producing. He's playing well. And that's something you can probably count on, especially with the amount of carries that he's getting. And despite George Kittle being out and Debo still being out, shout out to Juwan Jennings, who's had almost 300 yards these last couple of games. And he's playing well. He had three or four touchdowns over the span as well. And he's played well. He's really stepped up in the receiving game, despite, the people being out with injury and Brandon Ayuk not playing well. We're not talking about that. We're not going to talk about that. But Juwan Jennings playing great. But that's pretty much the most notable thing from this game was just the injuries for the 49ers makes it hard to really, show some light outside of the players that are most notable. And then, for the Patriots, they're just bad. They're bad. And, well, there's not really much more to say. And then the Commanders and the Cardinals. Commanders dropped 42, and it's 42-14. They win this game, and the Commanders are good. The Commanders are a good football team right now. And I didn't really expect that. I thought they'd be like a middle of the road team. God, while I'm thinking about this, I'm kind of panicking and praying like my video doesn't stop recording. But the offense is good. Defense needed a bounce back performance after the rough first 3 weeks. They get it against the Cardinals offense that's been explosive these first 3 weeks. And for the Cardinals, this is a disappointing loss. I mean, I didn't think they would, get blown out. Especially, I thought they had them winning this game, actually, because the Commanders' defense is so bad. But, the Cardinals just let one get away. And, it's a disappointing loss. It sucks. But I'm not going to hang my head super low. Because the Cardinals, they're 2-2 right now. But, I mean, hey, they're competitive. They've been playing well for the most part. I'm not going to let one game in week 4 kind of just derail everything that they've done good all year. But for the Commanders, the offense is really good. Jaden Daniels didn't play, as well as he did last week. But he still played well enough to win. Brian Robinson was good for them as well. And this offense is good for the Commanders. This offense is going to be good. I think it's going to be an above average offense, if not top 10. And good for them. They're 3-1, and they're well on their way to 7, 8, 9 wins this year. Chiefs and Chargers. Chiefs win 17-10. And for this game for the Chiefs, the big takeaway is that Rashee Rice got hurt. Mahomes threw a pick, and while trying to tackle an opponent, he ended up hitting Rashee Rice. He fell down the wrong way, got carted off the field. And that's unfortunate because he's been the one bright spot on this offense statistically. But this game, Travis Kelce stepped up, had 7 for 89. Xavier Worthy had a big play. I think it was a long touchdown. And going into next week, we'll have to see, who's going to step up for the Chiefs? Who's going to step up for them in the receiving game? And not to mention Kareem Hunt. Kareem Hunt played this game, had 14 carries, like 60 yards, and he's back with Kansas City, which is interesting. But it's a storyline we'll have to keep up more on as the season goes along. But although it might be something to look back on once, or not really think about once Isaiah Pacheco comes back, because he's clearly the starter. But for the Chargers, they were very well prepared. They were really close. It was a really close game. It was really close. This Chargers defense obviously playing much better than they ever have with Brandon Staley. But the deal is, Defense kept him in this game. Offense didn't do enough. They slapped the running game with J.K. Dobbins, and this passing game just was not there. And it really hasn't been there these first 4 weeks. I'm not really sure if Justin Herbert's fully healthy or not. But at this point, it's getting a little bit frustrating because, I mean, you just expect Justin Herbert to play better. But then again, you know, the offensive weapons aren't great. I've talked about it multiple times ad nauseum almost at this point. But this game was a lot closer than I thought it was going to be. And credit to John Harbaugh for keeping them close. But the Chiefs are a better football team. And they're 4-0, so they're rolling. But lastly, the Browns and Raiders beat the Browns 20-16. The Raiders didn't play too great in this game, but they eked out a win. The big storyline is that the Browns are bad. The Browns are just bad. Their defense is nowhere near where it used to be. And for Deshaun Watson, I'm done. I'm done with Deshaun Watson. I know people and Browns fans are probably done before, but looking at how bad he's playing and looking at how good the Texans are right now and looking at how well they're getting their draft picks and how much they're getting out of those guys, is Deshaun Watson after this year, barring like some insane comeback, like miracle comeback where he starts playing great again. Right now, Deshaun Watson, get him out. Literally just get him out. At some point, you got to trade him or cut him. You're probably can't even trade him. Cut him, eat the dead cap like the Broncos did with Russell Wilson, and go get another quarterback next year. You have to. It's simply not going to be good enough anymore. And for the Browns, nope. Everything's on life support for their season. But this time, hopefully that's going to do it for me today. Make sure you let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. Don't forget to do whatever YouTuber tells you to do. Like, of course, like I said, comment. Please do. Let me know your thoughts. And, of course, subscribe to the channel. Got a couple more subscribers. We're up to 11 now. So the 2 people that subscribed, thank you very much. And thank you to all of my subscribers to the Shumake Take, all 11 of you at this point. And, of course, share the video. Talk about it with your friends. Talk about it with your family. Get everybody locked into the Shumake Take. Got three videos a week coming out for you guys. Great content. At least I do say so myself. But that will do it. And I will see you guys on Wednesday to recap Sunday night, Monday Night Football, and preview NFL Week 5. And I will see you